So let us thank God for this opportunity to study His Word. I'm very happy to meet you all. We are all in the lockdown and we are not able to meet by person, but technology has helped us to meet at least like this. So when God closes some areas, He opens some other ways. So technological advantage is also a blessing of God. Let us thank God for that. Okay, we have planned to start a study of the book of Genesis. Genesis chapters 1 to 11. So we are trusting in the Lord to start this study. And I am going to give an introduction to the study of Genesis today. Genesis, as we all know, is the first book of the Bible. Because Genesis is the first book, it is very important book also. It is very important. Our attitude towards Genesis determines our attitude towards the whole Bible. And our understanding of Genesis rightly is the basis for understanding the whole Bible. Because without understanding Genesis properly, we won't be able to understand the rest of the Bible. Genesis is a basic study, the study of Genesis, and it's a foundational study. Okay, when we consider the name of the book, you know what is the Hebrew name of this book, the first book of the Bible? You know, Bible was written originally in Hebrew. So Old Testament was written in Hebrew language, and the New Testament was written in Greek language. So in Hebrew, what is the name for this first book? The Hebrew name is Bereshit. Okay, Bereshit. Bereshit means in the beginning. Okay. Actually, that is the beginning verse of the first verse of Genesis. What is the first verse of Genesis chapter 1? The very first verse of the Bible. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That is the first verse. So it starts with the verse in the beginning. In Hebrew language, that is Bereshit. Bereshit is a single word in Hebrew, but that is the word for in the beginning. So the first, in the original language, the original Hebrew language is Bereshit.
Bereshit. Genesis Bereshit.
Bereshit is the first word of the first verse. The first verse of the Bible, we know it is in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. So the first word of that verse is in Hebrew language, it is Bereshit. So it was the custom in those ancient days, it was a custom to take the first word of a book and put it as the name of the book. So maybe according to that custom only, the name was given to the first book, Bereshit. Bereshit simply means in the beginning. Okay, in the beginning. So we in English we use the word Genesis. That is the name of the book, Genesis. How that Genesis came? Actually, Genesis has the word Genesis has no relation directly with the Bereshit. When the Old Testament was first translated into Greek language, the first translation of the Bible was into Greek language, okay? And that was in BC 3rd century. This is some 3 centuries before Christ. They wanted to give the Old Testament to the Greek-speaking people, and it was translated into the Greek language. That translation is a historic translation and it is known as Septuagint translation. Okay, Septuagint translation. So Septuagint translation, when the translators translated into Greek language, they used the word genasio. Genasio. That was the name they gave for the first book. Genasio means an account of the origins. That is the meaning of genasio. Account of the origins. So from that Greek word genasio, the English word Genesis came. Hope you are following how the English word Genesis came. It came from the Greek word genasio. Okay, so in the Hebrew language, the name of the book is Bereshit, and in the Greek language, the name of the book is Genasio, and when it was translated into English, it became Genesis. Genesis. Okay, in Telugu, what is the word, brothers, for the first book?
Adikandam.
Adikandam.
Adikandam. Okay, Adikandam. In Malayalam, we say Ulpati. Ulpati. Ulpati means the origins. Okay, that name shows that this book, the first book of the Bible, tells about the origin of everything. In Genesis, actually, we have the origin. We have the origin of what all things? We have the origin, we have the beginning of the heavens, we have the beginning of the earth, we have the beginning of the light, the beginning of land, oceans, sky, day, night. We have the beginning. In Genesis, we have the beginning of plants, beginning of animals, beginning of birds, fishes. We have the beginning of man. We have the beginning of marriage, the beginning of family, the beginning of sin, beginning of curse, beginning of death, beginning of promise, beginning of murder, civilization, nation, war, worship, sacrifice, judgment. It goes on. It goes on. So Genesis is the book of the beginnings. The beginnings. How things began. If you want to know how the world began, we have to look into Genesis. If you want to understand how everything began, we have to go into the book of Genesis. Then only we can understand it. We can understand it. Okay. So next I want to explain the importance of the study of Genesis. Why is the study of Genesis important? Many people don't consider the book of Genesis as an important book. Maybe when people start reading Bible, they skip maybe the Old Testament books. People are interested to read the New Testament. They start from New Testament. But very rarely people show interest to read from the very beginning. But Bible, you know, Bible is the book which God has given to us. And if we are reading, we have to read from the beginning. You have to read from the beginning. Suppose somebody wrote you a letter, how will you read it? You will read it from the beginning, no? From beginning to end, you will read it. You won't just to skip the beginning part and you won't read the last part. You won't understand the proper meaning or the content. So Bible starts with the Genesis, and when we are reading the Bible, we have to read from Genesis. When we are studying Genesis, we have to study. We have to study. Actually, these days we are in the lockdown because of the coronavirus. People are more interested to study the book of Revelation, in the last book. That's good, because many people, the Christians, see these things that are happening all around the world as a sign of the second coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. Jesus said that there will be many signs. There will be earthquakes and wars, and there will be pestilences or pandemics like this famines, all this will be the sign of his coming. So there is an increased interest in the study of the book of Revelation. That is good, okay, that is good. But now we have started to study the first book. No problem. That also is a basic study. Basic study. So why is the study of Genesis so important? I've just said 3 reasons, okay? 3 reasons why we have to study the book of Genesis. We have to study, not just to read. I say study. We have to study the book of Genesis. There are 3 reasons. The first reason is its historical importance. Okay? Genesis gives the history of the world from its beginning. From its beginning. There is no other book. There is no history book in the world which gives the history of the world from its beginning. The true history of the world. Bible, Bible is a wonderful history book. It's an authoritative history book also. The world has a starting point. The world has a starting point. And the Bible starts from that very thing, how the world began, So the creation account given in the Bible, especially in the first 2 chapters of Genesis, is the authentic account of how this world began. People have funny beliefs about the origin of the world, we don't know. People have funny. What is the theory that is taught by popular science about the origin of the world? We all study in schools and colleges, what they teach. They are teaching simply some funny theories concerning the origin of the universe and about the origin of everything. If you refer a world history book, which is used by universities and all, how they start, they just start with an assumption, which popular science is spreading. What is that assumption? They say that this world began with a big bang. With a big bang. What is a big bang? Big bang means a big explosion. So they say some 14 billion years before. They have the they use only billions and millions and all. Nobody knows for accurate. Simply they are telling 14 billion years before there was a big bang, a big explosion, and that explosion created this universe. That's what they say. So what exploded? They will say that the universe was there existed the matter, and the matter was existing in the form of a single globe, and that single globe exploded. That is known as the bang, the Big Bang, and that created all the galaxies and all the heavenly bodies, including our solar system, our Earth. That's what they say. And how life began? So they go further. They say that life spontaneously, life originated spontaneously in the earth. Spontaneously means by itself, without a creator. By itself, by natural processes, life originated. That's what they say. As a single cell organism, first life originated, then gradually it developed into higher organisms by a process called evolution. And that process took millions and millions of years. So all the species of living creatures were created by this process of evolution. And at last, human beings came from monkeys. Okay, that's what they teach. You all know that in the schools, in the colleges, whether you like it or not, this is what is taught to our children also in the schools and colleges. But this theory, it cannot even be called a theory because it is not a proved scientific theory. It is simply a hypothesis. It is simply an assumption. Okay, they are teaching it as if it is proved science, but it is not at all science. It is not at all science, and it has no proof, no evidence. All the evidences are against it. but this is what is taught. But you see, the Bible gives us the clear account, the authentic account of how this world began. How the world began, the Bible says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. This world is not the result of a Big Bang. No. This world was created by God. Created by God. So the heavens, the earth, and everything in them were created by God. Created by God. So see, Bible gives the correct beginning of the world. Actually, experiments have been going on. There are world nations united together to conduct an experiment about the beginning of the universe. For many years, they have been conducting that experiment and all. Even India is a part of that experiment, and India also has to give some crores of rupees, I don't know how much, every year towards that experiment. What they are experimenting, in the Big Bang, what happened in the beginning moments of the Big Bang, they are trying to research. And how many billions of dollars they have spent, they haven't found anything. They haven't found it. It's foolishness, actually. Why, just because they don't want to believe, they don't want to accept God, and just because they don't want to accept what God has plainly told, they are believing such funny things. But see, Bible starts with this verse: in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Heavens and the earth. That is the beginning. That is how the world began. Okay, so the historical importance, that's what I am discussing. The historical importance is great. Bible gives us the true account of the beginning of the world and the beginning of everything. Beginning of everything. Okay. We are living in a world which does not believe in God, mainly. Materialistic world. Most of the people, educated people, are atheists in the Western world, and they are teaching their philosophy all over the world, all over the world. They are forcefully including that into the curriculum, and even our children are forced to learn all these things, funny theories. So we have to, at least we have to be aware, and we have to make our children sure that the Bible account is true. It is scientific. It is reliable. And the popular account of evolution and Big Bang and all that is not at all science. We should know, and we should teach our children. So Bible gives us a historical background for the world. It tells about the beginning of the world. Okay, not only about the beginning. It covers the history of more than 2,000 years. The book of Genesis covers how many years history? 2,000 years history it covers. From creation until the death of Joseph. Okay, if you calculate that, you will understand that it covers 2,000 years history. There is no other book in the Bible which covers that much history. Actually, Genesis is a concise book. History is compressed and it is given in concise form. Only important events are mentioned in detail. Everything is not given in detail. Okay, creation is said in detail because it's very important. Then we have more details about the account of the flood in Genesis. Then after chapter 12, it is focusing on Abraham, the person Abraham, because God has chosen him and called him. But it covers that much history. There is no other book, okay? There is no other history book which goes back to that, the beginning of the world, and gives us an account of history. It is written only in the Bible. So it covers that much years of history. And if we want to know a right knowledge of history, we have to read Genesis. We have to believe Genesis. We have to study Genesis. Okay? So that is the first importance, historical importance. The second importance is theological importance. This book of Genesis is theologically also very, very important. Okay, what is the theological importance? What is theology? Theology is the study about God and about the things which God has revealed in His Word, about the programs and plans of God. Together we can say that's what is theology. Okay. So Genesis is theologically very important. Why, you know? The whole of theology is built on the basis of Genesis. The whole of theology. Genesis is the foundation of theology. That's what I was telling. We are introduced to God in the book of Genesis. Genesis introduces God in the very first verse. How the first verse of the Bible starts? In the beginning, God. Actually, there is a phrase, in the beginning, God. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Okay. So the Bible does not try to prove the existence of God, and that is assumed. That is presupposed. God exists. In the beginning, God. When everything began, God is there. God is there. God is eternal. God is eternal. So that God whom we are introduced to is the creator God, the all-powerful God. See, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So the word used for God is Elohim. Elohim. In the Hebrew language, it is Elohim. Elohim is the name of the creator God, the all-powerful God. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's a wonderful statement. I will tell about that statement later. See, the God of the Bible is not a small God. It's not a little God. The concept of God among people of different nations and tribes and times, it is funny concepts they have. Funny concepts. They do not have an idea of an all-powerful and all-knowing and a God who is so high, majestic, almighty. Bible introduces such a God who created not an area of the world, but the whole universe. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Heavens and the earth. That's a wonderful introduction. Wonderful introduction. So theology starts there. Theology starts there in the very first verse of Genesis. So somebody said that if you believe the first verse of the Bible, then you will have no theological problem at all concerning any verse in the Bible. If you have any doubt concerning the first verse of the Bible, then definitely you are going to have a doubt concerning all the other verses in the Bible or all the meaning. See, I hope you understood. If you can believe the first verse of the Bible, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That is the greatest miracle, no? Out of nothing, God creates the heavens and the earth. Heavens and the earth means the whole universe. It includes the whole creator of love. If you can believe that, is there any problem for you to believe any other thing? There is no problem. See, some people have doubt when they come to further books in the Bible. Some people have doubts about miracles. They will say, oh, is it possible? Jesus worked miracles. Is it possible to work miracles? Some people say Jesus walked on the sea. Maybe that is a made-up story. Some people try to explain the miracles of Jesus in a naturalistic way. How Jesus multiplied bread and fish and fed thousands of people. They will say, maybe like that little boy, all the people who had bread with them, they all brought it. So they shared their bread. That's how they fed the people. No. If you can believe the first verse of the Bible, then there is no problem for you to believe that Jesus multiplied the bread, or he walked on the waters, he gave sight to the blind, or he raised dead people. There is no problem. There is no problem. So this is basic to theology, the first verse of the Bible, the first chapters of the Bible, the first book of the Bible is fundamental to theology. And we see what we see. Not only about God, the book of Genesis tells about the creation of man. How is man created? Man is a special creation. It's a unique creation. He is created in the image and likeness of God. Which books tells us about this? You take any ancient books or the myths or the religious books in any other religion. What do they say about the origin of man? We have funny stories. Okay, I'm not going to all such stories, but we have funny stories. But the Bible says man was created in the image and likeness of God. Man is a special creation. Man is different from animals. Today, today the problem with us is that there is no value given. Value and dignity is not given to human life. That's a problem. And there's a tendency, there's a trend to make human life equal to animal life. Actually, today animals have more rights than human beings. That's a fact. Animals have more rights. You know about stray dogs? Stray dogs cannot be killed. Whether they are mad or they are sick or they are biting people, there is no permission. Law does not permit to kill any stray dog. So they are giving importance to stray dog and wild animals. Maybe in Andhra Pradesh, people don't have that problem, but in Kerala, we are facing that. Wild animals like elephants and buffaloes and tigers are coming into the city, even to cities, not even to the village, even they are coming and roaming in cities. They are destroying all the crops. People cannot kill them. People cannot touch them. Recently, one elephant died. Case is going on in Kerala. So they are telling the elephant which died by some accident, it died, and when they did postmortem, they found that it was a she elephant and she was pregnant. So the whole social media reacted to that event. A pregnant elephant was killed, and that little elephant baby also was killed. It's a big issue nowadays in Kerala. But every year, how many abortions are taking place? 156 lakh abortions are taking place every year in India alone. 156 lakh, that means 1 crore 56 lakh abortions are taking place. And who cares? Who is reacting against that? Nobody. See, today people are giving more importance to animals than the humans. Why? The problem is here. The fundamental truth they have denied, they have despised. That's the problem. Man is created in the image of God, and human life is important. Human life has value and dignity. So Bible only teaches that. Only Bible is teaching that. In India, people were divided into different castes, and what was the basis of that? You know that story. People of higher caste, they said that they had a higher origin. People of lower caste, they had a truth. Bible tells us the truth. Human life is valuable, and because man is created in God's image. And the Bible gives the theological foundation is there because Genesis gives us the account of man's fall. Fall means how sin entered into this world and how the mankind fell into sin. Okay, that's also an important thing concerning theology. Because man committed sin and mankind is affected with the sin problem, then the whole story of redemption is based on that fact, that fact. There are even people and denominations among Christianity who don't believe the book of Genesis. They don't take it as the real account. There are people who say that Adam and Eve are just mythical characters. They are not real human beings. They are just mythical characters. No, Adam and Eve are the real persons, the first human beings whom God created. And the fall means the sin, which is described in Genesis chapter 3, is the real incident. That is the basic problem into which humanity fell. If Adam and Eve are mythical characters, then it will come that the fall did not take place. If there was no fall, there is no need for redemption. If there is no need for redemption, there is no need for a redeemer. If there is no need for a redeemer, there is no need for Jesus Christ to come into this world. See, if the foundation is denied, we will jump into big problems. If Jesus Christ did not come into this world, then what is theology? What is the need for theology? So the book of Genesis is the theological basis for the whole Bible, and it is theologically also very important. Okay. One more importance concerning the study of Genesis I want to share. That is the practical importance. The book of Genesis gives us a lot of practical. It has a lot of practical importance. Genesis gives us a God-centered worldview. You know what is a worldview? Worldview. What is the Telugu word for worldview?
Loka Drushti.
Loka Drushti.
Loka Drushti.
Okay.
Lokam Drushya.
Okay, so our worldview is important. The book of Genesis gives us the right to worldview. Okay, right to worldview. So, if people are believing that this world is the result of an explosion, and human beings are just evolved from monkeys, that worldview will be having a tremendous consequence the whole life of mankind. If this world is the result of an explosion, and if there is no God, then there is no meaning for human life. What is the meaning and what is the purpose of human life? People who are atheists means people who don't believe in God, they don't have a meaning of life. If we ask them what is the meaning of human life, they don't have an answer. What is the purpose of life? No answer. What is the difference between animals and human beings? Qualitative, is there any qualitative difference? They say no. Then what is the difference? See, the book of Genesis gives us a correct worldview. Because of that, we know that this world is created by God. We are created by God, and we are a special creation of God. We are here in this world not by chance, not by any accident. You and me are living in this generation. It is not an accident. It is the plan of God. The Creator God loves you personally. He has a purpose for your life. Your life is important. Your life is important. So this is a practical. This is a matter of practical importance for us. People who do not have this right worldview, they have an identity crisis. You know what is the problem with the Western society, the godless society? They have an identity crisis. why people are resorting into drugs and the liquors and all the sinful things. They don't have a purpose for life. They have an identity crisis. They do not have any hope beyond this world. But we who believe the Bible, we know that we are here by God's plan. We are created by God. God loves us. God has a plan for us. God has prepared a future for us. He has prepared a redemption for us. We know that our problem is sin. And for this sin problem also, God has made a solution in Jesus Christ. So we have hope for our future. We have hope for our future. We have meaning for our life. So this is the practical importance. Practical importance. And of course, there are many examples. The book of Genesis gives us wonderful practical examples concerning godly people. Godly people. Abel is a godly example. Enoch, a person who walked with God. Noah, Abraham, Joseph, such wonderful examples also we have in the book of Genesis. That also adds to the practical importance of the book of Genesis. Okay, this is just an introduction that I gave concerning the importance of the study. In summary, this is what I wanted to tell you. The book of Genesis is very, very important. Very, very important. We need to read the book of Genesis. We need to study the book of Genesis. We need to understand it. We need to understand it. Historically, it is very important. Theologically, it is very important. Practically, it is very important. Because if we make a mistake in the book of Genesis, we are going to make a mistake in the whole Bible, concerning the whole Bible. Our view about the Genesis is important. You know how the Western world left God and they went to atheism, you know. Some 150 years before, actually, a book was published by Charles Darwin, The Origin of Species by Natural Selection. Charles Darwin, he is the main proponent of the theory of evolution. When that book was published, it became very popular in the Western world, and people read it. They started to question the Bible. Gradually, people lost their belief in the Bible, especially in the book of Genesis, in the beginning chapters of Genesis. What happened, you know, that doubt did not stay there. When they had a doubt concerning the book of Genesis, gradually they had a doubt concerning God, and gradually they lost their faith, and then they lost their whole faith and they left Christianity. And the Western world sank into all sorts of immorality. Because if there is no God, who is there to fear? If man is just like an animal, they will start to behave like animals. See, the consequence is great. The consequence is tremendous. So we need to know that the book of Genesis is a foundational book. We need to read it and study it, and we have to teach our children. Okay, all of you who are parents, you make sure that you teach your children the book of Genesis, not simply telling stories, but in the form of stories also you can present it, but you say that God created everything, and God is the creator of everything, and He is the controller of everything. We are created in God's image. Okay, you have to teach children. Okay, brothers, okay.